The Florida Gators are your 2025 national champions, and I'm still trying to figure out, how did that comeback happen?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shader, joining me at the place to get your college hoops every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch to get your Wednesday going the right way. I want to remind you can catch every single episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Special shout out to all the everydayers with us, all the great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. Coming up on the show today, we got to have conversations with our host of Locked On Gators, Brandon Olsen, to celebrate with him, and with our host of Locked On Cougs, Mr. Parker Ainsworth, to mourn with him and figure out what happened in this thing, but also turn the corner. So let's start right out of the gate with Brandon Olsen, host of Locked On Gators, celebrating a national championship. Woo, baby. The Florida Gators are chomping again for the first time since the back-to-back championships in 06 and 07. Of course, Al Horford was in the building until you knew it was going to happen. Actually, I didn't. Brandon Olsen joins me, the host of Locked On Gators. And Brandon, I got to be honest, buddy. I thought we were eating Gator stew for dinner on fourth dinner Monday evening. How on earth did Todd Golden's crew come back and pull this win off?
Well, I would like to circle back to about a month ago when I told you guys on the Bracket Breakdown show that, hey, Florida's the best team in the country. And the best team in the country, they come back, they fight, they claw, they scratch, they do whatever they need to do. And this was another case of first half came out relatively flat. And not even just came out flat. I actually rescind that. They didn't come out flat because they started scoring decently. And then Houston made them play Houston ball. And they were not good at playing Houston ball. And then at halftime, Todd Golden once again made the adjustments needed for his team to actually be able to come back and fight and take the lead here. And that's exactly what happened. I don't know what they said to Alex Condon at halftime, who had 3 travels in the first half. But whatever it was, again, I think they said to him was, hey, you're not playing Aussie rules football anymore. You need to dribble in this sport. And that really improved there. This is just a team that was never going to quit, was never going to die. We know that. We've seen that many times from them. And they make adjustments when they need to, and they do what they got to do. You know, Walter Clayton's 3 isn't falling, get into the paint. Elijah Martin's 3 isn't falling, just keep playing defense, get into the paint when you can. And Will Richard, of course, just thank God for him in that first half, because that game would have been cooked.
And I think that's the thing, is because of what Will Richard was able to do in the first half, literally scoring half of Florida's 28 points, it was able to keep enough connectivity that instead of having to come back from 15 to 20 down, coming back from 12 down was feasible and doable, Brandon. And so in a half where your 2 leading scorers, not only Walter Clayton, but Elijah Martin only had 2 at the half. I mean, that's what, if you told me that, I'm like, no way Florida wins this basketball game. How important was Will Richard in securing this win?
Huge. I mean, look, he made 4 threes in the first half. And the Florida Gators as a team made 6 in the entire game. So Will Richard carried that part, similar to Elijah Martin in the first half against UConn, where he kind of shouldered the load there offensively. That's what Will Richard did against Houston. And his ability to just consistently score in the first half was huge for Florida, as well as what Will Richard did on the boards. He led the entire team in rebounding with 8, and defensively I don't know what type of demon time he was on Monday night, but he kept swatting the ball and swiping the ball out of Houston players' hands. And even if it didn't lead to a turnover, it was just disrupting their offense and just making them do different things. And so Will Richard, I mean, just a phenomenal performance. And hey, big time players, big time plays, big time moments, big time games, anything. But Will Richard owned it on Monday night.
Well, and I like you kind of leading us into that turnover conversation, Brandon, because what was crazy to me was at halftime when Florida had 9 turnovers, most of it just Alex Condon shuffling around like he's dance time. I don't know what was going on there. Houston only has 2, but then, dude, after the first couple minutes of the second half, it completely flipped. The Gators had just one turnover in the final like 16 or whatever it was. And then no turnover. Their final turnover was like 9:30 something left. So no turnovers for basically the final quarter of the game. That to me is massive in the ability to win this down the stretch when Houston started kicking it all over creation and had 5 turnovers in like the final 3 minutes.
Yeah, this was similar to the Auburn game in the Final Four. Florida was turning the ball over a lot in the first half, wasn't forcing turnovers. And then in the second half, they picked it up. And in this game, forced 7 turnovers in the second half against Houston. Just forcing chaos. That's really it. And we talked about everybody talked about this game with, oh, hey, Houston wants to make things dirty. They want to make things messy. Florida wants that too. They just want it to be messy and fast, whereas Houston wants it to be messy and slow. And so when Florida kind of started picking up the pace a little bit, they went back to attacking in transition, which was working early on, and they kind of went away from it when Houston slowed the pace. They went back to attacking there. They just hammered the paint. And look, I don't care what anybody says about the refs calling things on either side. It turned into a ref show in the second half.
It did.
And Florida, I feel like, just took advantage better by going, okay, if it's going to be a ref show, then we're going to hammer the paint. And we'll get calls when we can. And Florida shooting 17 for 21 from the free throw line, whereas Houston made 9 free throws, 8-point difference in the free throw line alone. You win by 2. And a lot of that was just when the fouls came. Houston didn't foul really at all in the first half. And then in the second half, they were in the bonus. Both teams were in the bonus with like 13 minutes left.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Houston was in the bonus with 17 minutes left in the first half. It was just, or second half. It was just nonsense, but Florida just took advantage more than Houston did.
We talked about Alex Condon being a turnover machine in the first half, but here's what he did do better. Is he had just been a basically non-factor from a scoring standpoint, like Saturday, for example, in the national semifinal against Auburn. Nothing. In this game, he's Florida's second leading scorer, pouring in 12 points. If memory serves, he had the first 4 points of the game for the Gators to get things going. And I thought was just doing a good job of getting to the rim, getting things up and down. And I know it wasn't like a, wow, Alex Condon, look at you. But still, man, it was solid enough to give the team what they needed. I thought it was a nice rebound from him. What were your thoughts on Alex Condon's performance overall, Brandon?
Yeah, I thought that his first half was, and I was very open about this at the time, and I'm standing on it. I thought his first half was one of the worst performances of basketball I've seen. Just genuinely from someone that I have high, and that's something I've said is why I am harsh on Alex Condon, is because I think he can be great. It's trying to hold you to the standard that I feel you should be held to. And his first half is horrible. The travels are inexcusable. The indecisiveness at times, it felt like there were a couple times he had the lane, didn't take it so that he could pass out, or had the pass and chose to dribble around a little bit. And then in the second half, he just completely flipped the switch. He had an offensive foul early on in the second half. And after that, no more turnovers, no more really screw ups at all. He just played good basketball, said, hey, I'm going to let the game come to me. I'm going to work harder on the boards, which he did. They got significantly better in the second half at securing defensive rebounds. You look at the number of just offensive rebounds allowed. Sure, it's way higher. But it's also important to note that, well, Houston took way more shots because Florida turned the ball over a ton as well. And Florida had way more free throws, so field goal attempts changed there. But Alex Condon just played so much better in the second half and played kind of like the Alex Condon we saw for the first 30 games of the season, where I've been saying since the start of the SEC tournament, he's been upsetting me. And we saw the second half was similar to what we saw the first 30 games of the season from Alex Condon.
Brandon, we've talked a lot about the game itself. I want to talk about the immediate aftermath of it, because there was a moment I thought was a really special moment of humanity, I'll call it. Obviously, you see the just broken look on Coach Sampson's face, man. You got to feel for that. The moment that stood out to me, obviously, Emmanuel Sharp had that potential shot for 3 to win the championship. Walter Clayton comes flying past him. Had he pump faked, maybe he gets it off, but he didn't, and has to kind of throw the ball down so he doesn't travel. Nobody can get it. Ball game. Immediately after the horn sounded, Emmanuel Sharp is sitting in a slump on the floor, and here comes Walter Clayton immediately to him to console him, because had had that shot gotten off and gone the other way, it maybe is Walter Clayton sitting there feeling those same feelings. And I feel like he felt that and understood it. And that's what led him to go directly to Emmanuel Sharp. Just what could you say about this senior who, basically unrecruited out of high school and then does this?
Yeah, I mean, look, Walter Clayton Jr., he's been a leader of this team, of this program. I've said it a few games ago, and I feel like it has to be etched in stone at this point that Walter Clayton Jr. is the greatest Florida Gators basketball player of all time. Fantastic leader there. And also with Walter Clayton Jr., I don't know if this is true, of course, but I feel like I want to think Walter Clayton Jr., Florida born and raised. Of course, he went to Iona for the first few years, but Florida born and raised. Emmanuel Sharp, also a Florida kid. He's from Tampa. And so I'd like to think that was part of it, like a hometown connection. Like I said, like I'm from New York. We don't have the same state. We don't have the same like state camaraderie there that I feel elsewhere. And Walter Clayton Jr., just a great leader, great person. And to just be able to, first off, like the awareness to not just immediately go running and celebrating everywhere and just completely ignoring the other team, but to then come back and console Emmanuel Sharp. I think it goes to a true testament of Walter Clayton Jr.'s character.
That's very well said, man. Also, that beep I gave you a minute ago was some Tony Reale around the horn points for the great.
I'm getting points.
Yes. I wish we had one of those buttons. I'd love to be doling out. Great point. I love that. All right, guys. So here's where we got to go now, though. Basically, the whole Florida backcourt is gone because they're out of eligibility, but basically the whole Florida front court can come back if they choose to. So I want to ask Brandon, can the Gators run it back again? Because they did that a couple years ago. We'll have that conversation coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, none of which is me, by the way. I hire people for that. Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 or more top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Don't worry about it. Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always get to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Go check it all out at supplyhouse.com. Mr. Olsen, once upon a time, and by that once upon a time, I mean 2006 and 2007, the Florida Gators won back-to-back national championships. At that point, just the second team to do it in the modern college basketball era, joining the 91-92 Duke Blue Devils. Let's go with Duke Blue Devils. How about that? And then obviously joined in the past 2 years by UConn in 23 and 24. Now, Florida has a chance to become the first team ever to do it twice. Part of that is going to have to be, though, Todd Golden's got to replace his entire backcourt, basically. Although the front court may be back. As you see, we've got a whole bunch of sophomores in Handlockton's a junior, obviously this year, a rising senior. But then Condon was a sophomore this year. Hauk, sophomore. Chinyelu, sophomore. So, Brandon, what are your expectations, just big picture expectations, heading into the 25-26 season?
It's tough. In fact, today's episode is also about that for me, where it's Florida. You're losing, like you mentioned, Walter Clayton Jr., Elijah Martin, Will Richard are definitely gone. They are absolutely gone.
No more COVID? We can't find a COVID somewhere?
Hey, if I could, I would. Trust me. I'd be like, come on, Elijah. Like, I get Walt, I get it, but Elijah will come on back. I fully expect personally Alex Condon and Thomas Houck to both declare for the NBA draft and then come back when they realize that, hey, we're going to be a second round pick. I think that's the expectation here. So I do think that you'll get your front court back. I think one of the backup bigs leaves, whether it's Hanlogton or Sam Alexis, maybe, because Sam Alexis he vanished from the rotation once Micah Hanlogton came back.
That's a great point.
And we know that at this point, Florida has been in contact with Xavier Lee from Princeton.
He's nice. He's nice.
He's someone that someone told me about months ago, and I was like, "Oh, keep an eye if he gets the portal." And there it is. Dayton Thomas, I think it's pronounced Dayton from UNLV, and Quimari Peterson from East Tennessee State. Florida's been in contact with all of them. All three are pretty good guards, and they fit what Todd Golden likes to do. I would think that Xavier Lee and Peterson, it would be between one of them. Denzel Aberdeen stepping up, but I'm just going to be honest with you. I got no clue how you do it. It's tough for me to see how much turnover there's going to be, and just the sheer percentage of points from your team that you're losing, and just all the production that you're losing, and to just say, all right, just turn it around and fix it. But also, Todd Golden did all of this with, and I'm not even going to harp on the whole, like, oh yeah, no 0 star. I'm not even going to harp on all that, but he did it without maximum resources. And from what I've been told, Florida will have a lot of resources at their disposal for this transfer portal period to run it back, because you've got proven product out there. And we know that Todd Golden probably going to get, I want to say he's going to get 2 guards from the portal, and maybe a wing from the portal as well to replace Will Richard there. And for the most part, it's Denzel Aberdeen stepping up, Isaiah Brown stepping up. You've got Urban Klavjar back for another year. Alex Lloyd and CJ Ingram are both coming in out of high school, and I think Alex Lloyd can come in and then contribute on the bench right away.
You've still got CJ a wing, coming out of Montverde.
Yes, CJ's the wing. Desperately needs to work on his jump shot, though. For me, he shot 18% from 3. I don't think that that's good for anybody. But I think that you got to work on that. But I see a path. I do see a path. I think you've got to get your Xavier Lee, who, statistically somewhat similar to Walter Clayton Jr. In terms of shooting rate or shooting percentage from 3, effective field goal percentage, free throw rate. He does a lot there offensively. It's tough for me because again, Walter Clayton Jr., I think he's the greatest Florida Gator of all time. I don't know how you replace that, or at least.
I mean, you said it the other day, the first ever first-team All-American that Florida's had.
Yeah, I don't know how you replace that easily. I don't think it's possible to replace that easily. But at the same time, Todd Golden has, throughout his entire tenure in Gainesville, has done nothing but earn the trust and faith of his roster-building process and his coaching. And I think that at that point, you got to just go, well, we've got one of the best coaches in the country, 39 years old. Yeah. He's going to have a lot more NIL at his disposal. I think you can have faith in doing it. I think he's proven that he's pretty good at this whole transfer portal thing. And so I feel like you got to kind of just chalk it up and say, hey, Todd Golden,
I'll see what happens.
And get it done. Yeah, he deserves it.
Well, I'll tell you one guard that definitely out of that group that definitely will not happen is De'Don Thomas, because unfortunately he's already committed to LSU. So that's a non-starter, Brandon. Unless you want to roll down to Baton Rouge and start some stuff. I might. Yeah. But man, Xavier Lee, I'm really enticed by him. I think he's a guy that I'm not worried about transferring up. One of the questions with him is he is going to explore the NBA draft. So we'll see on that. And that's so tough with the portal, man, because it's like the timing of it. You got to get guys, but can we wait on you to make your decision? It's a whole thing with the portal. I wish they could get those timelines lined up a little bit better. Well, Brandon, obviously we're going to have to talk a lot more as the roster starts to take better shape and we have a better idea of how many of the bigs stick around. How do we replace this electric 3-headed backcourt that we've seen this past year? I mean, it's been so much fun to watch, and I know you have loved every second of it, and now all the more so as the reigning national champions. I'm sure that's got a good sound to it.
It's good to be back.
All right, guys, we got to get Brandon out of here because he's about to go have a celebratory championship dinner on Tuesday evening as we record here. And my man, it is well-deserved. Congrats to you. Soak it up, and can't wait to talk more this offseason.
And I can't wait. Go Gators.
The ecstasy and the agony, man, it is very real. And so we turn from the ecstasy to the agony. And now here in just a second, going to be joined by our great host of Locked On Cougs, Mr. Parker Ainsworth. Well, it is a joy for me to be joined by Parker Ainsworth, the host of Locked On Cougs. I don't know that Parker is feeling all the joy in the world right now because, unfortunately, it was a rough Monday evening for at least 64 seconds of it, as that's all that Florida led in this national championship game. Parker, I felt every bit of that as the host of Locked On Tar Heels, as well as my role here. Just 3 short years ago, we gave up the largest comeback in NCAA championship game history. And so I have sat in the seat you're sitting in, and I know how painful it is. That said, I got to ask you, what happened that allowed Florida to come back and win this game?
You know, it was a tale of two halves in a lot of ways. Obviously, in the first half, Will Richards is like the saving grace that kind of keeps them in the game. He has 14 of their 20 at halftime, if I remember correctly.
Exactly right. Yep.
And he's kind of the only reason it's even close. Houston's kind of rolling. And then bluntly, and I don't mean this as a way to blame referees. The referees changed a lot of things in the second half. Florida adjusted, Houston did not, right? And that's, I think, the ownership piece of it is like, listen, you got to adjust. And they did a full 180. You went from 4 fouls called in the first half to 25 called in the second half. And the final 12 calls, 11 of them were against Houston. That doesn't count no calls of that. And again, I don't mean that as a way to like blame other people as much as like Houston clearly didn't adjust. And was a little like taken aback by what they weren't able to do all of a sudden. Because we both know, we've watched Houston play for a long time. You cover college basketball nationally, and I've been watching them for my whole life. And they're a physical brand of basketball. So when the whistles are put away like the first half, that's why they were rolling, right? And they've adjusted throughout the year in other games when the entire game is called like that. But for it to like suddenly switch, they didn't switch their own style of play and adjust to it fast enough. And frankly, like I said in my show, it felt almost more like they ran out of time, right? They never had time to adjust and get back into it after that. And that adjustment there, or inability to adjust, I should say, is kind of the story of the way that one went. You know, the only team I saw one stat, it was the only team to ever play 40 games and never lose a game by more than 5, which is just like an unbelievable way to look at the season, right?
Yeah. And that's good, like immediate hindsight, or not hindsight, but foresight, or good grief, whatever, vision. Like to just be able to look at it and say, but still, what an incredible season this was. It's just the pain of falling a pump fake shy of a potential game-winning look for the national championship. I mean, good night, Parker. Down the stretch, Houston had been the team that had taken care of the ball so well, and then the Cougs turned it over 5 times in the final 3.5 minutes. Of course, I guess included in that is that final one, which was kind of a turnover because technically Florida grabbed it, whatever. Do you think that was an issue of kind of running out of gas, or an issue of like they're just trying so hard, trying to make plays, and it just didn't happen?
You know, they've had games where they had got turnover happy or whatever throughout the season, and so I guess like it's not necessarily a one night issue. It certainly felt like a down the stretch issue though, and I say that because you mentioned they had 5 down the stretch. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't. I'm trying to pull up the stat to be exactly correct, but they had. Was it 13? No, a 9 on the night, right? So
correct. 2 in the
more
first
than half of them happening in the last couple of minutes, I think, is more indicative of just like a little bit of a we got to figure this out really quickly and kind of shifting gears kind of moment. Feel terrible for Emmanuel because like and I'm saying this on my show too, so I don't mean to do reruns here, but he's catching a lot of flack for the ball being in his hands at the end. He hit the big shot against Duke 2 nights before. He was most outstanding player in the Big 12 tournament. He was most outstanding player in their regional. He has been a catalyst for this team and hit a lot of big shots throughout the year. He had 2 turnovers in the final 90 seconds, and a lot of people are pretty down on him. And I, just trying to remind people that he's a true junior, 21-year-old kid. And frankly, they're probably not here if he's not there. And so just kind of keep things in perspective, because it's easy to focus on one play out of a 40-game season. But that, I think that's just a little perspective you got to keep, because he really was a big part of the year and the successes they had along the way.
Yep. Well, and it's the same conversation we had about Cooper Flagg Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
That missed shot for Cooper does not lose the game for Duke. It's everything that happened in that 10 and a half minutes before, where they only had one field goal. Same thing is true here. That turnover from Emmanuel, and then just the Walter Clayton made a good defensive play, and Emmanuel just couldn't get the pump fake. And not to find the loss.
And it was weird, because I feel like there's almost like a weird misjudgment. It was like he couldn't tell, because Emmanuel's pump faked and sidestepped. He did it to win the Duke game, right? It's almost like he couldn't tell how far away Clayton Jr. was. It wasn't like he didn't know he was there, right? Yeah. And that was an interesting moment, because he has hit the pump fake sidestep, I don't know if a ton of times, yeah. Right? And so that would not be out of his bag or character. It was like he left the ground not really knowing how far away Clayton Jr. was or how close he was. It was a little weird.
Or maybe how much time was on the clock. I mean, I feel like I had a good look at the clock, but all of that, man. And it's just, it happens. This is sports, and it's just, it is. And, but we love it, and we live and die with it. And that's why this is such a hard day for the Houston fan base. Now, Parker kind of making the quick shift. And obviously we're going to have a lot more conversations this offseason as we go into what the roster is going to shape up to look like. But my first question with looking ahead is, Kelvin Sampson, 69 years old. Do you feel like he wins a national championship before he retires?
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie to you and say this wasn't a really good chance, right? I don't mean to say that this wasn't a really good shot for him. I do think it's worth pointing out that he is 69, but he's dancing in locker rooms and throwing water balls around and having a good time after games, and he's hollering and running, and he's in good shape. And if I'm that spry going into year 70, that would be pretty freaking good. I'm not
well said. Well said. Yeah.
And so I think there's that aspect of it. The other thing is that this thing is, kind of at the front end of getting rolling. And I don't mean that to say this is the worst it'll ever be, because obviously they just got to the national championship game. That's not realistic. But I do think it's worth pointing out, there's that aspect of motivation too. He's already built this. He didn't have to rebuild anything. For folks that maybe on the national landscape don't understand what I mean, they're losing 4 seniors and they're bringing in a class of 4 guys, but that's before you hit the transfer portal or anything else. 3 of those 4 are 5 stars. 2 of them were Gatorade Player of the Year in their respective states, and 2 of them were McDonald's All-Americans. This is the first time he's going to do this with this kind of talent coming in. The 2026 class looks to be also stellar. They haven't had commits, but they have a bunch of guys in their top 5s. And I feel like that almost adds a little bit of longevity, because that's exciting and new, right? And we've seen what Kelvin's done with the development of 3-star kids. Now imagine development of, we saw Jarris Walker for 1 year.
I was just going to say yes, exactly.
This is 4 of those, right? This is a whole different ball game. And so, or certainly at least 3 of them. And I feel like that's an important thing to keep in mind here. Is well, he's 70. How long does he go? Well, what 70-year-old wouldn't look around and be well, I can get to coach that. I don't have to build. I've already built it. I've already put in the hard work. So for him individually, I think that there will be more chances. I feel more bad for the Jawans and the LJs and those guys, because they're out there. That's it. And that's a whole different kind of thing.
And I think even still, for example, seeing the video of Jamal Shed watching the semifinal and how stoked he was, you hate to miss it, but you love to know that you paved the groundwork for hopefully the guys to come after you. And Parker, you said, there's the 4 seniors, but only 2 of those were starters, in LJ and Jawan. And that means, and we don't know who's going to hit the portal and what all is going to happen. But if guys stick around, Uzan can still be here. Emmanuel Sharp can still be here. JoJo Tugger will be a juniors, the reigning Big 12 defensive player of the year, right? There's so much possibility here for this Houston team ahead. And so, as you said, this is clearly not like, oh man, it's the end of an era and now we got to start completely over. I think it's bridging a gap to next season, and there's a lot of hope ahead. In fact, if I remember correctly, I looked at John Rothstein's way too early Rothstein 45, and I think Houston was 1, Purdue 2, Duke 3. And so like there's national landscape hope already.
Yeah, I don't mean to be cocky or arrogant 2 days after not getting a shutoff at the end of a basketball game, but I do think most people have them in their top 3 across the country as far as next year's rankings go, because they see the returners. They know how rare it is for Kelvin to lose a guy at the transfer portal. I think as far as like guys in the rotation go, he's only lost 2. Tremont Mark being 1, and then Caleb Mills a few years back.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's, I think, speaks pretty highly of the guys that, coming back or whatever. And then they understand that all the McDonald's All-American stuff and all that coming in too. I think they have Houston ranked pretty highly because of all of that. Yeah. We don't have Leaf on or anything like that. The interesting thing will be like, what does the pro prospect look like for Miles Uzan or JoJo Tugler? I think personally they'd benefit from doing the draft thing, getting some analysis on their game, getting an analyst to talk to them, and then coming back and playing, right? But it's hard to turn down a guy telling you go make millions of dollars. So I don't know.
Parker, hopefully you can continue to drown your sorrows and turn around and have a happy day, because big things ahead for Houston next year we expect as well. What a turnaround that could be. Folks, make sure you go check out all of Parker's great work on Locked On Cougs. Thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate both Brandon and Parker giving me some of their time after a crazy long weekend. I'm so grateful for the job that both of them do on their respective shows. Make sure you go check out all their great work and find out what's going on this portal season as well for both of their squads. Guys, if you've not subscribed yet to Locked On College Basketball, man, we will be with you all off season long, talking portal, talking previews, talking everything under the sun that you can imagine. You're going to want to be here. If you've not joined our Locked On College Basketball Discord, where we're chatting all the time, that link is in the show notes. It's absolutely free to join. As always, I want to remind you, apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild, folks. Shouts to Mick Bruins. And until tomorrow, peace.